All right, guys, continuing to look at some of those questions on 9-6. Again, please don't hesitate to shoot me an email or a message through Mind or, you know, whatever to get my attention on ones that you're struggling with. This is number 58 on 9-6. This is one of those last two story problems there. So let's look at it. So we got a diver, I think. It says while standing, nope, I'm looking at the wrong one here. Let me get on the right homework here. Yeah, here we go. A diver dives from a cliff. Center of gravity is 46 feet above the surface of the water, so he's doing some cliff diving. Never done that. Have you? I'd love to. So some cliff diving. Maybe I can do that during this quarantine. Anybody know any cliffs? All right. Let's see. Diving off a cliff 46 feet above the surface of the water. That's a little high for me. Her initial velocity leaving the cliff is 9 feet per second. How long does it take her to hit the water? Okay. All right. So we got this vertical motion model here. Again, I told you to memorize this, have this handy. This is going to come into play. Again, so right now we've got 4 different variables, and T is going to be the one that stays, all right, because we're asking how many seconds. So that's going to be the one we don't know. So we should be able to fill in values for the rest of them, all right? So height is going to be 0 because we are looking at the time. How long does it take her to hit the water, all right? So we're counting water level there as 0, all right? So negative 16 t squared plus, now v was her initial velocity, and we were told that was 9 feet per second. She was leaving at 9 feet per second. And again, I'm going to leave the t there simply because, excuse me, simply because that's our variable. We don't know the time. That's what we're trying to figure out. And now plus s. Now this is the new one, all right? Remember before when we used this, everything was leaving from the ground. We were kicking a soccer ball from the ground or whatever the case might be. S here is the initial position. It's initial height. How high was this thing originally? And here, she's not on the ground. She's on a cliff 46 feet above the water, all right? So there's the equation that we're going to want to solve, all right? 0 equals negative 16t squared plus 9t plus 46, all right? Now, again, with the negative 16 in front, okay, I want to do some multiplying here, and let's do negative 16 times 46. Holy cow, I get negative 736. All right, this should be fun. All right, so negative 736. All right, so as I start looking at this, now again, I talked about this in one of my other videos. So negative 736, and I want 2 numbers that multiply together to give me that, but add together to give me 9. So a couple things here. I know one's going to be positive and one's going to be negative. And I'm going to subtract those 2 when I'm adding them because they are opposite signs. So I want them to only be 9 apart. So what I'm going to do, I don't want to do negative 736 and 1. All right, I want to get 2 numbers that are pretty close together. So I'm actually just going to take the square root of 736. So let me do the square root of 736. And it comes out to about 27. All right, so that's a starting point for me. All right, I'm going to start checking numbers around 27 until I find 2 numbers that are 9 apart. All right, so if I do 736 divided by 27, that doesn't go in even. All right, let me try 736 divided by 26. Nope, that doesn't go in even. 736 divided by 25. Now I should have known that's not going to work. It doesn't end in 25 or 50 or 75. 25 is not going to go into it. 736 divided by 24. Nope, that doesn't go in even. 736 divided by 23. Oh, 23 and 32. And those are 9 apart. All right, so there we go. So again, just using that little square root, the square root of this gives you a starting point, and then after that, it's kind of guess and check. So what did I say? 23 and 32, and we want them to add together to positive 9. So that means I'm going to need the 32 to be positive and the 23 to be negative. So I'm looking at positive 32 and negative 23. All right. So here we go. I'm going to uncombine like terms here. All right, so this becomes 0 equals negative 16t squared plus 32t minus 23t plus 46. Okay, so again, I just took and that's a little bit hard to see there, 32 and the negative 23 from over here, and unsimplified the 9t. I'm going to group some things together. I'm going to make that 23 a negative 23 just so I don't lose that minus sign there. Okay, negative 16t squared and 32t. What can I factor out of that? Well, negative 16 and 32. I can take out, I'm going to take out a negative 16. You could take out a positive 16. It really doesn't matter. You just have to be, your work might look a little different over here once we get to this part. But I'm going to take out a negative 16 and t squared and t. I can also factor out or undistribute a t. So I got negative 16t. And negative 16t times what would give me negative 16t squared? Well, that'd just be t, or 1t. And negative 16t times what would give me positive 32t? That would be minus 2. So I get negative 16t times the quantity t minus 2. Here, I've got a negative 23 and a positive 46, a negative 23t, sorry, and a positive 46. And actually, negative 23 goes into both of those evenly. So I'm going to factor out that negative 23. And now negative 23 times what would give me negative 23t, that'd be t, plus negative 23 times what would give me 46, that'd be negative 2. And now still equals 0. And now I can see, I've got my like groups. All right, t minus 2 or t plus negative 2, that's both the same thing. So I got t minus 2, and then here negative 16t minus 23 equals 0. All right. Now when I'm looking, I've got this factored, so now I want to use the zero product property. I'm multiplying together two things and getting 0, so one of those two things has to be 0. Either t minus 2 has to be 0, or negative 16t minus 23 has to be 0. So I've got two equations to solve here. This one I can solve. I can add 2 and add 2, so I get t equals 2. This one, yep, it's a two-step equation. So I'm going to add 23 and add 23. So I get negative 16t equals 23. And then I'm going to divide by negative 16 on both sides. And I'm going to leave it in fraction form. I get t equals negative 1 and 7/16. Okay. So again, two solutions. That's kind of what we were expecting with these, what are called quadratic equations, with equations involving squared variables. We're expecting two solutions most of the time. But now again, this one, because t is a time, how long is it going to take her? It's negative time in this case doesn't make sense. So again, this is a solution to that equation. It doesn't answer our question, all right, where this one does. Okay, 2 seconds. It's going to take her 2 seconds to hit the water. Okay, so again, the vertical motion model, we've seen that before, but now we're filling in a value for s, all right, because we're not necessarily starting on the ground. We have an initial height, and that's going to necessitate us, kind of doing this factoring by grouping here. So number 58 on 9-6. Hopefully that helps. Take care, guys.